Okay, well, I think it's 8:01 by my clock. I think we'll begin. I hope you're all toasty and warm. And thank you all for joining us. I hope you'll find the next hour and probably an hour a bit helpful and informative. I want to begin by acknowledging that I'm participating in this meeting from the traditional territories of the Mississauga, the Mohawk, the Algonquin, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and most recently the Métis people. And the acknowledgement is just to remind us of our shared responsibility to our relationship and these ancestral lands. So if I can call on incoming Director Drew Kessler to make a comment or two.
Thank you, Doug. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and happy and healthy New Year. It's so great that we're kicking off the new year talking about a topic that is so, I think, top of mind, not only for me, but for all that are on this call. I thank you first and foremost for attending. This is 2 nights in a row. We did Zone 32 last night, in which there were 88 attendees. And if I move my mouse, we have exactly 88 tonight, and hopefully that's still growing. So that really is an incredibly impressive number, that there are that many folks who are in district leadership that are taking membership as such a top priority. We all can agree membership is essential. It's essential to our survival. It is essential to our growth. And what we're going to be presenting tonight is something that really can change our culture and how we view how clubs both attract as well as retain our members. This is something that's imperative that we realize what we're doing on an individual club level, where our successes are, and most importantly, where our opportunities are. Tonight, we're going to be hearing about 5 key principles, many of which we might already know, but the way they're being shown tonight, I think, is something that's very, very special. Doug and his team and the help of Liz has been absolutely phenomenal to put this program together. My hope is everybody takes something from it. And in the months coming, whether it's pre-pets or pets, you have an opportunity to share this both with your clubs and your districts throughout. So membership to me is everything, because my number one goal in this great organization is to make sure that it's around for my kids and my grandkids. And I think I probably share that sentiment with many of you on the call tonight. So with that, I turn it back over to Doug, who's going to present a phenomenal program. And I look forward to all that's to come. So thank you, Doug.
All right, talk about raising expectations. I also want to thank the team members, and particularly our analytics team and enhanced learning teams have done a phenomenal job of helping us put this together. And I point out to you that the team is a collaboration between zones 28 and 32. I also particularly want to thank Liz Smith-Yates, who has done an amazing job in helping Herb Klotz and I put together the interviews and the video clips that you're going to see in a little while. And lastly, but absolutely not least, I want to thank my fellow coordinator, Zone 32 coordinator, Herb Klotz, who's been an amazing person to work with and who has driven a lot of the data information that you're about to see. And so just a quick comment about membership numbers and so on. So as of the end of December, the bad news is that in Zone 28, we're on track to lose more than 1,400 members by the end of June. What's interesting about those numbers is that it tracks almost precisely the pattern that we've displayed historically over the last number of years. So I'm sharing that not to depress you, but just for us to acknowledge the reality of the situation that we find ourselves in. And I also would like to point out that the success track data and projections that I've started to share with district leaders monthly, it's not designed to make you feel bad, but it's just as a reminder, this is the situation we faced. And, you know, to point out that the zone team is here to help you, not to tell you what to do. Our job is to provide you support and help you to achieve the success that you want to achieve. So let me share. Oh, I'm not sharing the screen. Liz, I'm ready for you to put the PowerPoint up. Thank you. So what I'm presenting to you is a presentation and part of a process that we would like to be able to share with PET sessions this year in various districts. We have been invited to participate in a number of the district PET sessions, but not all of them, often because there are multi-district PETs planning as well ahead and so on. So I would like you to look at this in the context of providing feedback as to how you think it would help in the PET sessions, and for you to think about whether there are other opportunities rather for us to present this to your district leaders. So I'll do the presentation, explain what it's about, and then we'll take a few minutes at the end of that to go into breakout rooms where our zone teams will facilitate a discussion to get your feedback on what you see. Okay, so the presentation is based on a diagnosis, and the intention is for us to provide each incoming club president with data, historic and current data about the membership trends in their clubs, and a bit of a diagnostic as to what it would mean. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. The second piece is to share the results of the membership survey that we completed and the 5 attributes of successful clubs that we are suggesting are solid evidence that we can use to build on in our own clubs and within our own districts. And then the final part of the presentation, number 3, would be that we would facilitate presidents-elects to engage in a discussion with their peers on how they could build an action plan moving forward. So to begin, why do we talk about attraction and attrition? The reason attrition is the percentage of people that are leaving your club each year. Attraction is the percentage of people who are joining your club each year. Okay, next bullet, Liz. Yep. And the reason for talking about attrition and attraction rather than recruitment and retention is it allows us to compare one easily against the other. And quite simply, to grow, it's obvious that attraction has to exceed attrition. What we will be sharing with the incoming presidents is a version of this. We still haven't worked out exactly what would be the best way of doing it, but our intention is for each of them to get a historic summary of their membership trends, perhaps like this graph here, as well as their specific attrition and attraction rate. And you can see in this example for this club that they have an attrition rate of 13.5% against an attraction rate of 10.9, meaning that their net growth rate is minus 2.6 people, members rather, every year. And the intention of this is to get people thinking about what that might mean to them. Then what we want to do is to talk to them so that they can compare themselves in their own situation to the common patterns that we see. So roughly 10% of the clubs are what we call experiencing a growth culture, meaning they have a high attraction rate, which you see on the y-axis, and a low attrition rate, which are percentages you see on the x-axis. There's roughly 10% of those clubs. The other extreme are roughly 25% of clubs that are in what we call a danger zone. And those are the clubs that have a high attrition rate and a low attraction rate. Most clubs are somewhere in between, in an area that we call a steady membership, but they're not all the same. Some are stuck in place, which is our way of describing the club that has a very low attrition rate, but also a low attraction rate. And very often those are the clubs that are happy to be together. They're content with the work that they do, but they're aging in place. And every year the club gets 1 year older. We also have clubs that have high turnover. So their membership number may stay reasonably steady, but that's based on a very high attraction rate and a high attrition rate, what we call churn. And then we have other clubs that are experiencing what we call a fragile balance, and that they could easily tip either way. And then there are also other clubs that tend towards the lighter green that you see, which are leaning towards growing, or the orange, and they're leaning towards a decline. So what we also want to share with people is to give them a chance to compare themselves to Rotary and their zones. So Rotary's attrition rate is around 14%, and against an attraction rate of 13%, which explains the ongoing decline. And the range within districts ranges from 11 to 20% for attrition, 10 to 15 for attraction. And what we're wanting people to start to think about is to create, can you go back, Liz? To create targets for themselves with attrition of less than 15%, 10% being an ideal, and an attraction rate that's 5% greater than attrition. A point to keep in mind, 10 to 15% is life happens. It's what we would normally expect in a membership organization. People leave, they get married, they take on new jobs, they have kids, and so on. Okay, Liz. Now, what we need to be thinking about is a fundamental truth that the data shows us. Each club is different from every other club. We need to begin to individualize the responses we make, taking into account that how we support Club A might need to be quite different than how we support Club B. So a club with high attrition needs a different response than one that has low attraction, with attrition over 15% and attraction less than 10%. But the club might be experiencing both, or it could be experiencing neither. And in that case, we just want to be working with clubs to continue to build on their growth culture and the successful strategies that they've been engaging in. And again, just in the context of individualizing support, we need to be thinking about, okay, given your data, where should we be focusing? Should we be focusing on your attraction rate and understanding what is the cause of it? Is it because of club culture? Is it because you're not active enough in the community or have the visibility that you could have in the community? Is the issue different? Is it related to your attrition rate? Again, club culture, but it could be club culture in a different way. Perhaps the club is one of those clubs that could invite 100 people a year and none of whom will stay because of the culture they have. Yeah. Are they doing a poor job engaging members? Or is it some combination of both? And so again, to reinforce the point, we want to individualize and tailor the support we provide to where that club is at. So now I want to move on to share the results of the survey that we completed. Herb and I, both more or less at the same time, had a look at the number of clubs in each of our zones that grew during the pandemic, and we identified about 90 that had grown by at least 5 members during the year. I can hear somebody's microphone. I wonder if whoever that is could mute themselves. Thank you. So we're looking at clubs that experience a net growth of 5 members or more. We sent a 11-question survey to these club presidents and received responses from 55, a wonderful response rate of 61%. So we took that information and the committee had a look at it, analyzed the results, and put together the common themes and patterns. And they were so obvious that they fell together really easily into what we're calling the 5 attributes of successful clubs. And they are, number one, first, and it will be of no surprise to any of you, strong leadership. Clearly, leadership makes a significant difference. The second one is they had clear membership goals and or a growth plan for moving the club forward. Next, they were active in the local community and they held many events and service projects. They were visible in the community with strong media presence and strong public image. And lastly, but equally importantly, they were actively engaging their members in a very intentional and deliberate fashion. So now I want to just walk through each of those in a little bit more detail. What's happened in clubs is leadership makes a difference, good or bad. And in the case of these clubs and in many other clubs that you're all well aware of, leadership makes a big difference. And the successful clubs tend to share some things in common. They have consistency, they have continuity, they have collaboration, and they have effective communication, 4 C's. And what we want to say to incoming club presidents is that this is their opportunity to make a difference. And I'll show you the first set of clips now. And as you'll see, Rotary leadership, according to these leaders, is about we, not me.
Leadership involves sort of having a vision or embracing a vision and moving your club and the members towards pursuing that vision in a way that makes them feel important and a part of the process.
The leadership is a little bit different, I think, in Rotary than it may be somewhere else. It certainly has to be distributed.
Leadership is all about getting people to say, yes, I will own some specific result, so that they are then leading a particular effort.
It's not my club, it's not the president's club, it's the members' club.
Because of COVID, we have to reimagine everything that we do.
How do you bring people from where they are to a new place? That's the kind of leadership I think we have to have in Rotary.
It's really important in order to do that, you be able to listen and to be fluid with what's going on with other people in your community.
And we're here for the community. So just constantly thinking about that, to me, that's what leadership meant to me.
So the next attribute is attracting new members, and that meant that they started with a goal and a growth plan. So 88% of the club leaders said that membership growth was a top priority. 83% of those uploaded their membership goals in Rotary Club Central. Excuse me. 85% had a membership committee, and active attraction by members was a key strategy. And I want to emphasize that they almost always had a committee, not a committee of one. And as you'll see from the clip, that it became a priority for the whole club, top of mind for everybody in the club.
We made membership a priority during the pandemic year because it happened to coincide with our centennial.
Membership was a priority to me before I knew we were going to be having a pandemic throughout our entire year.
And 3 years ago, we established 4 strategic goals for that centennial, and one of them was to grow membership in our club.
equity and diversity was really an important aspect of that.
We wanted to diversify our club. Our club was aging like many clubs. We wanted to inject some youth into our membership and attract new younger members into our club.
One of our cultural goals for the year was to be open to every person, opportunity, and idea.
I wanted to make sure that we created a club that people would want to join, people would want to remain in.
We also wanted to improve the gender balance in our club.
Identify very specific people and put them in very specific roles on the membership committee.
I asked members, can you please think about people in your community that you know, that you think might be good Rotarians, and don't just think about it, ask them to join.
As long as you're making plans to make sure that your membership growth happens, I think it will.
So the next attribute had to do with the extent to which clubs were active in their local community. They had many events, service projects. They were highly visible, often monthly or ongoing, as you'll see in a minute. 67% of the clubs held events that were targeted at new member attraction. Among the things that they did is they were deliberate in searching out areas for immediate need, partnering with other civic groups. They took diversity, equity, and inclusion seriously. They identified projects that would appeal to prospective members, an important difference from asking people to come and join what they've always done, but demonstrate a willingness to do things a little differently, and offered a variety of projects for members to choose from. And one really neat quote from one of the presidents: they focused on not yet Rotarians, inviting them to a wide variety of projects, special Rotary Day events, and so on. In some, they were active, engaged, and engaging. And as you'll see from these clips, they did not stop moving.
The pandemic provided a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to connect with people all over the world.
One of the keys to our success in terms of membership, and all of these things are interrelated, was our ability to partner with some of the other community organizations and not-for-profits.
We took the lead on managing the volunteer sign-up sheets for the mass vaccination clinics that were happening in our community.
We started an Afghan refugee resettlement program, and we actually got our first family last night.
We continued some things that we had been doing. We'd been serving at a local a soup kitchen, Bristol Lodge, for going on 30 years, and we didn't stop that.
We invited guests to our events, both our fundraisers as well as our hands-on community service projects, of which there were many. I think it was 22 events that we had in spite of the pandemic.
I would say on average, we had at least 5 partners, including Rotary, on each of the projects that we embraced.
We have about 50 volunteers, and 2 of them just recently became Rotary members.
The group that we work with in Haiti, we were able to Zoom with them. So in a different way, we were able to connect with the service projects that we were already engaged in other countries.
During the pandemic, we found different ways to deliver food and support that community in need.
That more awareness in the community of Rotary stepping up and being involved in what's going on with our club was great.
Next attribute is visibility in the community and having a strong public image. Importantly, they weren't just doing, they were being seen doing. The clubs used extensive use of social media. They also used traditional media sources such as papers and so on. But for the most part, social media was their focus, and it was an activity that was taken up by all of the club members. Here's some examples.
We're entirely willing to tell people what we've been doing and invite them to join us and invite them again. So everything we do is open to anybody who wants to get involved.
We wanted to get an article and a picture for everything we did. And there were people very, very impressed with what we did, reaching out to us, interested in joining, or at least inquiring about membership. I think as a result of that too.
As we were doing these projects, we were making lots of posts every week.
We did a PSA with a local radio TV station. That had a big impact. We put posters up around town, primarily letting people know about the program, not so much to raise money.
We were using ambassadors in the community. Where we live, we have a world famous theater, and so we have lots of relatively famous people that live in Stratford. We got them to sort of become our mask ambassadors.
So our members would post and repost, and we'd get remarks and comments and likes.
We've also added some new members who have particular social media expertise and design expertise, and they've really elevated our social media game, if you will, and we're not bashful.
So I think it was important that we were active in social media for the programs, not necessarily just for Duxbury Rotary.
We're just doing what Rotary has suggested we do, and what most organizations are encouraged to do, which is to tell the stories that you have through all the channels that you can muster, as often as you want, through as many different voices as you have.
And lastly, they were active and intentional in their member engagement. All right. The clubs and the club leaders, they were consistent with their meetings and having mixed forums for the meetings. The programs were strong. They focused on fun, friendship, and so on. Concentrated on being effective and how they brought new members in, and were deliberate in recognizing the contributions of their members. And again, paying attention to not yet Rotarians. And these leaders will make the point far better than I will.
And nobody wants to come to a dull party. So the other thing I wanted to do was make sure that we focused on fun.
Every month, I had a Zoom call, which later became an in-person meeting once a month with those new members.
My goal for speakers was to have those who spoke to be entertaining, educational, and informative.
They've sort of formed their own little fellowship amongst themselves. They're now friends, and they go out and have coffees together. And when we do finally get to meet in person, they're going to already know 12 other people in the club.
We made sure they got engaged in their area of interest. And so we made that a priority. And I'd say that was our primary strategy.
I mean, we were very locked down in our community, but we could go for walks. So what we did was to use the focus of the environment to get together in small groups.
We're in the midst of completing our second tree sale, and it was fantastic last year because it was an opportunity to get outside together with each other, meet more members of our own community, and do something good.
We're going to walk along the lake shore, and we bought garbage bags and gloves and pickers, and we went out. We wore Rotary gear. We took photographs and we put it on social media.
Invite everybody to get involved with anything that's interesting to them, as much or as little as they want. And when they do, welcome them warmly. And if they don't, invite them again to something else, because the way to get involved with Rotary is to get involved with Rotary.
I just love that quote. The way to get involved with Rotary is to get involved with Rotary. The last clip that I want to show you is actually a gift that was given to us through the course of the interviews. I would also point out that not all of the clubs necessarily demonstrated all five of the attributes. Some did. All of them certainly had strong leadership, and they all had strength in at least 2 or 3 of the attributes. But what ended up happening is we learned the story of a club that essentially put all things together in one way. And it's an example from the Rotary Club of Chinatown, New York City, that grew by engaging their club and their community in a compelling and innovative way, and resulted in attracting people who had never previously seen themselves as Rotarians. This.
One of the things that really made a difference was the institution of satellite clubs, because it gave us the ability to say to people who were interested, you can do this without having to commit to our Rotary Club. You can do it in your own way. So in fact, most of our growth came because we added a satellite club. The reason we have a satellite club is the other piece, which is that we decided to go for a global grant for working in our community in Chinatown. We knew that they were going to need a lot of help. And we also wanted to think about doing a global project at home. We had a plan that came under economic community development, which was to help the businesses stay open and to help them pivot if they needed to a different business model. Project isn't really finished yet because we still have some money, which is because so many of the things we had budgeted for, people ended up giving to us. The outcome of all this is that by doing that global project and getting ourselves out of there in the community so that the business community really did know who Rotary was and what we did, it gave us validity, and it made people think, well, this is an organization that I want to participate with. And so when we said we would invite the people in the businesses to come to our meetings and to hear things we did. And when we said to them, why don't you consider becoming Rotarians? And they said, well, first of all, many of us don't speak English. And secondly, it's hard to come to a meeting on a regular basis. We said, well, you all can form a satellite club. And they did. And they speak Cantonese when they're by themselves. And they frequently come to our meetings. And of course, we go to their meetings, and we're doing projects together, and we're doing dinners together and fundraising events together. Our hope is we say to them, you know, your goal, your charge is to get enough other people interested to spin off and be a separate club. They were like an infusion of energy and fresh blood into our club. I mean, they just they come with so much enthusiasm that it's made all of us a little more enthusiastic.
So at this point in the presentation, when we're doing this with the incoming club presidents, what we would be doing is providing a summary of the 5 attributes and giving them a little bit of instruction before sending them into breakouts. And what we would be asking them to do is to take a minute and reflect on the 5 attributes and pick a couple that they think that they could focus on starting now, but moving forward during the course of their year. And then have a discussion with others in the breakout, their peers, as to some actions that they could take to begin to achieve success in those areas. So if you could stop the share now, Liz. Thank you. So what I would like to do now is you have to agree with me that Liz Smith-Yates did a fabulous job putting those clips together. And I just really want to thank you again, Liz, for that. You just enhanced the whole presentation in a tremendous way.
My pleasure.
And what we would now like Liz to do, is being the technological whiz that she is to split you into breakouts for the next 15 minutes. And what we would like you to do is to give us some feedback on what you just saw in terms of how it might be useful to you, either with pets or other ways within your district. Some members of the zone team will facilitate the discussion and take notes, and we'll do a little bit of wrap-up feedback when we get back. So have a chat and let us know what you think. Liz, it's all yours. Welcome back,
Dynamic
everybody.
discussions. We lost our time.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. What I'd like to do is to go and do a quick go around. And just a reminder to all the facilitators, and I'm sure you are exceptional note takers, if you would put your notes together and shoot them off to me as soon as possible, so we can, Herb and I can take a look, and the team can take a look. So I'll just go through, starting with you, Dan. Just a quick one quick point that leapt out at you.
Doug, I'm going to take a moment to mute everyone. And so
Okay.
as your turn comes, feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm back. So, I mean, the one real big thing is that it really resonated a lot with the groups about our visibility in the community, and satellite clubs kept popping up, and opportunities for different types of clubs, and having relevant programs. And I can't remember, I think it might have been Allison who talked about, respecting and celebrating Rotarians and how good Rotarians they are and what they do and what the Rotary moments were, so that we can create that energy and passion in what's happening. And then lots of talk about active integration and different ways to do it. But it really resonated well with our group, and lots of desire to do more with it. So you're muted, Doug. Well, Doug's unmuting. Well, I'll tell you this, it's not an ice cream truck. I really was trying to promote Rotary in the community.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I don't know how I did that. Kevin Crosby, can you give us a quick comment or two?
Sure. We had great discussion about leadership, but one specific suggestion that came out that's immediate would be to share the slide with the 5 items of successful clubs with the district governors, so that they could begin recognizing clubs that are doing well in one or more of those areas, uses as a basis for building on strength.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Louisa.
Well, one thing that I was particularly thrilled to hear about were several people commented about how they're using the data that we've been sharing, you've been sharing and Herb's been sharing with clubs, either with club boards in some cases or with membership teams, and just how useful that has been to have conversations. So I think that was a really key thing for me to start with. But then we also heard about ways of using this at other events, depending on what districts have. So some would have membership summits, some would have different types of leadership assemblies, and that this information would be useful there. And we also heard people just reinforce the importance of things like the social media. One club, for example, does a weekly public image social media scrum and is really seeing great success with that. And another had a great thing to share around their engagement by volunteering to do concession work at an arena because of challenges to get staff. And so they've raised their awareness and they're doing a fundraiser at the same time. So sharing more of those stories is also a key part of it.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Louisa. Lise.
Thank you, Doug. We had a really good discussion. One of the things that came out was in regards to DEI, and some of the members felt that perhaps more specificity in regards to explaining how DEI can help with growth. And the overall consensus was that this is a really good program. It needs to be shared all the way down to the club level. And one comment was made that although we talk about DEI, most of the presenters that we saw were white.
All right. Thank you very much. Your point is absolutely taken. Okay, Margaret.
Thanks, Doug. So we had a great group that were they all seemed to be from very big geographic districts, which relate to. And so the comment that came out of our group that I thought was really telling was, don't forget the small clubs, because it's all very well and good to think about the fact that clubs have membership committees and lots of direct, people in charge. But reality is a lot of the small clubs don't. They're from small communities, and one size does not necessarily fit all. So we need to be very aware of that. There was also a really good comment about the fact that although satellite clubs are great, there were a lot of clubs in this particular district which are actually related to the areas where people come from in the world. So a Korean club, a Chinese club, a Filipino club. So I think that is also really, really telling. And the other thing was, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of, when people go to pets, they tend to be a bit overwhelmed. So maybe sharing ahead of time or breaking it up into sessions that go ahead of it to prepare you for pets would probably be more effective than just bombarding people with the information all at once. So I think overall, the presentation you made was terrific and people really appreciated it.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Next, Paul Simcock.
Thanks, Doug. And we had a great group from all across the zone. So that was very fun. It was great talking with all of those folks. A couple of interesting things that came up in our group. Captioning on the video clips was one of the issues that came up. Sorry about the clock in the background, but that's the way it goes. But having captioning on the video for the video clips was something that came up. Presentation available in French for our francophones in the group. Also, we had real people in the videos. That was a big plus. And we need to put some information with Rotary in the video as well, or in the presentation as well. As far as showing it for other opportunities, district assembly or member chair training would be a great opportunity to break it out to even more people. And then somebody already talked about breaking it into smaller segments for some of those smaller presentations. But yes, definitely has to get out to the club level. Thanks, Doug.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Can I just clarify, when they mentioned captioning, will you mean like of what was being said to follow?
Yeah, on the specifically what was talked about in our little group was the on the video clips. That would make it a little bit harder or easier to make sure that you could see and understand those video clips.
Okay.
The other parts of the presentation, you've got the slide behind it, so that might work. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And just a comment for the rest of you. The amazing Lise Dutrasek has taken on the job of translating the slide presentation. Doesn't work for the video clips, but the slides are also en français. Thank you. Next,
the French in the on the video captioning.
There you go. That's a good point. Thank you. Rick Cara.
Yes, hi. So we had a discussion really of the first question you asked us to look at, and not enough time to even consider the second question. And we focused on ways in which the presentation could be improved to make it more valuable to other districts and clubs. We thought that we could expand on the engagement aspect, so more about how clubs engage their members. More on the qualities of good leadership, since that's such a key part to club growth. What does it mean to be a good leader as opposed to perhaps a strong leader? More examples from the small rural clubs. So what happens around the larger cities in central Canada don't necessarily speak to the smaller towns and villages in, say, Atlantic Canada. More talk on mentorship of new members coming in, but also a nice point was membership of clubs to other clubs was perhaps something that would help membership growth, and the more inclusion of the importance of public image in the recruitment of Rotary members. So those were the places we thought that the presentation could be improved and rolled out then to other districts across the country.
Great, thank you very much, Rick. Bala.
Thanks, Doug. Our group felt that in each of the 5 categories, today's presentation was at a very high level. if we went to the club level, we needed to drill down deeper with more concrete ideas at the club level. In terms of accessing districts, we had some great ideas. This could be a great presentation, not only for leadership, but for the Rotarians in general. So 4 of the ideas were district conferences would be a great place to do this. Work with assistant governors, where assistant governors have monthly meetings with club presidents. So in each AG area, this could be presented because it's a smaller group. It could be drilled down to a greater level. District assemblies that are happening in the spring of 2022 would be another great venue for this. And some people felt that the whole presentation and today's presentation could be shared on YouTube. And I think the consensus was that we need to do this all throughout the year, not a one-shot deal, but continuously, and repetition is key.
Okay, thanks very much, Bala. And I think the last group would be you, Sue.
Okay, and yes, and a lot of our conversation certainly is reflective of the conversations we've heard. And one of the beginning conversation and a lot of how to translate this into future practice is working with the AGs and possibly at their monthly meetings or however a district is set up, whatever the format is, that the AGs have an opportunity to access this, and it might be segmented, and we've heard that talked about as well, and looking at the 5 attributes individually, and then also providing those same opportunities for the clubs. And again, at club meetings, the 5 attributes over time, with the idea that a one-shot deal, one-shot wonder doesn't necessarily work, but we need that ongoing revisiting of things to ensure that it does start to get translated into practice. So obviously at the club or AG level, if we're segmenting, can add in more examples, more opportunities, but overall, very, very positive. But that was a couple looking at segmenting it for future use, whether it be with AG groups or at clubs or really both.
Thank you very much, Sue. I just noticed a comment in chat about including it in AG training. Lauren, just send me an email and we'll set something up. So thank you all very much for the feedback. As I expected and was hoping, it's really rich with some fabulous suggestions. So team members, get me them notes as quickly as you can. So now I'd like to call on RI Vice President Valerie Wafer.
Thanks, Doug. And thank you everyone for being on this call tonight. And having sat through it last night in Zone 32 and tonight, I can tell you that a lot of the feedback is similar, which is excellent. I can't, express how excited I am to see this roll out. I think for too long, we've taken the same approach to membership with the same results. I remember a lot of the different campaigns that we've heard and we've practiced. We used to wear those buttons that saying, get your ask on and get ready to grow and all the others. And, to a certain degree, President Shaker's theme this year, or one of his mandates where we each one bring one, is so important, but more important or equally important is each one engage one or each one retain one. And I think that we're really great at bringing in. We know that we're not really great at keeping. And I think this new way of looking at our membership data, of looking at the analytics, but also looking at that soft story. And I think that that's what tonight brought, that personal approach, this presentation with these videos. We have a couple of the rock stars on the call tonight. So thank you so much for growing your Rotary Club and participating in the interviews. And again, I want a big shout out to Liz for putting it together. I think that personal story is really what's going to resonate with our president-elects, our AGs, our clubs. So really excited about this focus, really excited about this new way of looking at membership. And I want to give a huge thanks to Doug and all the assistants and to Herb, an incredible team, a powerhouse team. I think we're going to see the seeds that they've planted in the last year and going forward really turn our membership numbers around. Doug mentioned that our numbers might not look as great in Zone 28, but we've got a couple of districts that are really doing great. Reach out to them, ask them what they're doing. And, you know, to a certain degree, we in Canada and Alaska, we need to be meeting in person. We need to get back out there and have those personal conversations. That's what we're missing. That's why we're maybe not attracting. That might be why we're not retaining. So let's look forward to that day where we can meet in person again. I think that when we can, the community is going to look to see how we stepped up. They're going to want to join us, and we need to have some fellowship back. So thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for being champions, and thank you for being here tonight. So back to you, Doug, to wrap it up. And Happy New Year, everyone. It's great to see you.
Thanks very much, Valerie. Just a last quick comment before I say goodnight. To district leaders, don't be surprised if over the next few days, members of the zone team are in touch as a follow-up to this. And we welcome an ongoing conversation with you. For those of you who think are ready to pursue something, whether it's through PETS that hasn't been organized or some of the other alternatives that are suggested, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I would be more than happy to work together with you. And just a quick reminder, what I said at the beginning, we're here to give you support. We're not here to tell you what to do. We just want you to be as successful as you possibly can be. So with that, thank you once again. Have a great evening.